friends, welcome to my channel. For those of you that are new here, my name is Katelyn and I like to film eyeshadow palette ranking and review videos as well as the occasional other content sprinkled in. So if you like indie makeup, if you like eyeshadow palettes, if you like me, I highly recommend that you hit that subscribe button because I post 2 videos every single week. And for those of you that are not new here, my face is happy that you are seeing it again. And I'm super excited for today's video. As you can see by the title, we are battling palettes from 2023, but we're going to do it in a very specific way. I got this video idea from, I want to say, she's just Katie Marie on YouTube, but I think she's Lady Katie 92 on Instagram. Anyways, I will link her video down in the description box down below. I saw it last year and I wanted to do something similar this year. Basically what you do is you take the palettes that you ranked in the first half of the year and then the palettes that you ranked in theory in the second half of the year, and then you like go one for one and pick one and then see if the first half of 2023 or the bottom half of 2023 wins. I will admit that I did not have an even number after decluttering. There's not an even number of palettes from the first half and the second half of the year. So I have 31 palettes, and that includes some that I like recently decluttered but are still in my house. So I like pulled them back out for this. But anyways, I have 31 from the first half of the year, and then I have 41 from the second half of the year. Of course, that means, I think, and this is how I'm going to play this game, but that means that the second half of the year has a little bit of a leg up because we still have 10 palettes hanging around. So those 10 will automatically win. I will show you what those 10 are here soon because they're in theory they would go up against palettes that I've already gotten rid of. So obviously they would win because I still have them. You know what I mean? But anyways, let's just go ahead and get on into it. I didn't want to go through all of the palettes I had decluttered and like go through the process of putting pictures of them on the screen. I do have some palettes that I decluttered that I got in the second half of the year that I could, they're still at my house. I could in theory like put them back into this video, but I just thought I decluttered those as well. So to make it as fair as possible, I just used what I could. But anyways, so let's go through the first 10 that definitely would have won because the palettes from the first half of the year aren't here. So anyways, let's just look at them. So in 41st place for this bottom half of the year, we have the Esam Cosmetics. This is the number 4 Elevate Pigment palette. I like this palette. I like the shimmers in it. I think you can do all shimmer looks with it really easily with how the shimmer formula is. I feel like I want a little bit more from these iridescents, but I think if I play with them a little bit more, I might find that they give me what they're giving. But I think just in comparison to the other palettes that I grabbed from this brand, this one doesn't excite me as much. So that's why it's at the bottom of the second half of the year palettes, but I do feel like it's a good one. But anyways, I don't know what palette it would have gone up against from the first half of the year, but that one's already decluttered, so 0.1 to the bottom half of the year. Next up, we have the Viseart Coyish Étendue palette. Here's the adorable packaging. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it, but it has like fish scales on it. This is this palette. It's also an all shimmer palette. I put this one higher than the Esam palette, mainly because some of these shimmers are duochromes, and then this like really bright teal and yellow just add like really fun bright pops of color. So it's a little bit more exciting in my opinion. These do stay on like the softer side. They don't enhance texture, but they're also not super like glitzy sparkly like the shimmers I have on my lid right now. So anyways, this palette, because it's still here, beats whatever one would have come up from the first half of the year. Next up, we have Viseart Violette. Oh, you know what I just realized? It should be 42. I like how you looked over. It should be 42 palettes for the second half of the year. I forgot one. Okay, so technically it will be 11 palettes for the bottom half of the year, and we hadn't gotten to where I would have ranked that palette, so I just put it in. But anyways, going back, so we did 42, 41, now we're on 40. This is the Violette Vespertine palette from Viseart. It's like the Smokey sister to the Violette Étendue. This one's really pretty. It's obviously very neutral, very soft, very like glam without like a ton of color. Like they're very muted purples. So I like it. It's just not as exciting as some other palettes, but it is still in my collection, so it beats whatever would have been there from the first half of the year. Next up, we have the Viseart Cashmere Charmeuse. This is the one that I actually forgot, but caught it just in time. So this is number, right, 42, 41, 39. So here we go. I love this green. It's like a green-brown duochrome. Not like an uncommon shade. I feel like a lot of brands have this, but I really, really like it in this formula. And this one leans, it's neutral as well, but I feel like with the shimmers, you have a little bit more variety in it than the Vespertine palette. So number 38 for the second half of the year, we have the Ensley Rain Harvest Moon palette. And this is what the inside of the palette looks like. It's very pretty. Everything is dark. Like all the mattes are dark. Most of the shimmers are dark. You have a few pops of like brighter or lighter shimmers, but there's not really an inner corner shimmer. There's not really a ton of like variety or versatility within the palette, because you're gonna do a dark smoky look with potentially a pop of color, but that's really it. Like you can't create a lot of contrast, so that's why that one is there. But again, still here, beats whatever would have been in the first half. Next up, we have the Shroud Cosmetics Peaches and Dreams palette. So 37, I think. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. I love the shimmers in this palette. I think I have a hard time with this matte color story because I feel like I know to blend these two oranges together, but then beyond that, I don't really know what to do with the mattes, but I do think these shimmers are really, really, really pretty. And I like the packaging. It's super cute. Next up, we have the Unearthly Cosmetics Spaced Out palette. This was in the small summer mystery box. This palette is adorable. I love the shade Shroom. It's a smaller color story than I typically prefer, so that's why it's down here. But I do think it's a really fun color story, and I think it's really cute. And you could get like two shadow looks with the peach and the pink here, or the greens. I've done like an all green look. I think I combined the like pinks and browns as well. And it turned out nice. So I do feel like you can get a few looks out of this, but yeah. Anyways, I just like other stuff better. Next up, we have the Unearthly Cosmetics Get Groovy palette. This is from the large summer mystery box. I adore the packaging that Unearthly does because they always have an artist that they work with or hire to do their packaging. And I just think they always have like the cutest packaging. But anyways, this is the inside of the Get Groovy palette. It is essentially a rainbow palette without like a true red, but basically a rainbow palette, but it's a really fun rainbow palette. And I really like the way these shimmers look in this one. Next, we have the Milk Cosmetics and Nightmare Before Christmas Halloween Town collab with Nightmare Before Christmas. This is the Halloween Town. They did two. There's a Christmas Town one. Spoiler alert, you'll see it later. But this is what this palette looks like. I do like this palette. I think the mattes are nice. I think the shimmers are nicer than most melt shimmers. I think the Christmas Town palette had better shimmers. And then I think I have other palettes that have better shimmers than this one. But I do think for like, as far as melt goes, these are really nice shimmers. And this is a really fun color story. You know me, I love green, blue, purple, so works for me. Next up, we have the Devour palette from Unearthly. This was their Halloween palette. I do really like this palette. I wish there was more contrast between these two red mattes. I wish this one was a little bit lighter so that you could get more contrast between the two. But overall, I think the shimmers in here are nice. The mattes are nice. These iridescent shimmer shades down here are absolutely stunning, beautiful, shifty, really, really good. So I like this one a lot. And then we have the BellaBeauteBar The Sun and the Sea palette. I have to be careful because I broke this bottom shade down here. I did repress it, but it's a matte, so, you know, we'll see how that goes. But anyways, I say the same thing every time, but these 4 brown mattes, I don't mind if they've all stayed neutral, but I need them to be more different from each other than they are. But the shimmers in this palette definitely steal the show. They're absolutely gorgeous, beautiful, stunning, all of the nice things. So that was 42 through 32. Yes, 42 through 32 of the bottom half of last year. So those all won, so to speak. And let's keep it moving, and I'll actually have 2 to like battle each other going forward. Okay, so now what we're looking at is number 31 for both the first half of the year and the second half of the year. Also, to clarify, I think on Katie's videos, she does the exact order that she ranked, like, because she does a ranking video for the first half of the year palettes and then a separate ranking video for the second half of the year. Since I didn't do just a second half of the year ranking video, I decided to just rank both palettes, like for both portions of the year, again tonight. So you might notice that the ranking is different from like the video, because I did do a video that ranked the first half of the year palettes, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does. Anyways, you don't care. So number 31 for the first half of the year was the Chucky and Glam Like Crazy in Love collab. This is what the inside of the palette looks like. I feel like this is too dark for me personally. I don't feel like I get enough different looks in it. I just feel like a lot of these shades start, because they're so dark, that on me, they look almost the exact same. Even if I can see tone differences in the pans, they don't look different on the eye. So not my favorite. I technically decluttered this one, but it's still in my house, so I pulled it out for this. And then we have it going up against the Natasha Denona Xenon palette. And this is what the inside of that palette looks like. It's a grayscale palette. So technically not a lot of versatility in this palette either. You're getting a gray look no matter what you do, but you could make it like a lighter, softer gray look, or a smoky gray look, or, you know, a neutral, like a glam gray look, whatever. That's really your only versatility within the palette. But I do really like the quality of the shimmers in here, and I could get a complete look. I don't need another palette to blend out into my crease like I do on this one. So we're going to give it to the Xenon palette. Next up in the 30 spot, we have the BPerfect Cosmetics Gravity palette versus the Doodles by the Bunny and Gourmand Girls Nightshade palette. So this is what the inside of the BPerfect palette looks like. It's a neutral, like cool tone neutral color story. It reminds me a lot of the Ethereal Eyes color story from Makeup by Mario. I never got that one, so I actually bought this one to like fill that void, but I just like never reach for it, but there's nothing wrong with it. The quality was fine. This is the inside of the Nightshade palette. You got a purple, green, and like dark smoky color story. I really like this palette, so I'm gonna have to give it to this one. Second half of the year is cleaning up right now. Technically, I decluttered the BPerfect and the Chucky palette. They're just still here, so that could be the part that's like not the most fair. Anyways, all right, in our number 29 spot, we have from the first half of the year, the BellaBeauteBar Poison Garden 2 palette and the Huda Beauty Pretty Grunge palette. So looking at Poison Garden 2 first, we have a pink, green, and like purpley color story. It's a very pretty color story. I feel like BellaBeauteBar has better shimmers in their collection, and so this one just falls a little bit flat for me, just from the brand. Like, I just have higher expectations of the brand, but I do actually really like the mattes, and I like the matte color story on this. This is one that I technically decluttered, but then put, like, I'm keeping it to like decide if I actually want to. And as I look at it, I'm like, maybe I want to bring it back. Anyways, this is the inside of the Pretty Grunge palette. I don't know that it's grunge, but it is definitely a really pretty neutral palette. But is it like you're getting like a silver purpley look? I feel like you get more versatility with this one. I like the shimmers in this one better, but I like both the mattes, but I like the color story of this one better. Ooh, this is actually kind of hard. I feel like I should pick Pretty Grunge because I didn't like have any intention of decluttering that one, and technically I decluttered Poison Garden too, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm like, I feel like I don't actually want to do that. I think I'm going to give it to Poison Garden 2, actually. Poison Garden 2, so our first palette for the first half of the year has won. Okay, I think that was 29, right? Okay, 28. This is why I don't count in my rankings normally. We have the Odin's Eye and Makeup Just for Fun Flora Story palette going up against the Danessa Myricks Lightwork Volume 5 palette. So here is what Flora Story looks like. A really soft green and purple color story with a neutral in there, but it has this really, really pretty multi-chrome up here, and I really like the shimmer formula from Odin's Eye. My issue with this one is that I had some trouble blending the purple mattes, but overall felt like the palette was still fun and nice. It just wasn't like my favorite to play with. This is the inside of Lightwork Volume 5. I like this palette. I think it falls lower for me because I had such high expectations after Lightwork Volume 4. I'm absolutely obsessed with that palette. So Lightwork Volume 5 kind of, like, even though it's good, it's just not as good in my humble opinion, but it has a lot of really positive things going for it. It's got great formulas in here. It's definitely fun to play with. For sure this one is winning. Although I'm also debating not undecluttering this one. So 27 is going to be the Viseart Petit Four Sakura Lotus versus Ensley Rain Strawberry Moon. Here is what the Sakura Lotus, look at that packaging. Isn't that so cute? The Petit Fours are just like the most adorable thing in the entire world. Anyways, this is the inside of the palette, or quad, whatever. It's very pretty, very easy to use quad. I do feel like this particular shade from Viseart, they do a lot in a lot of their palettes. And for some reason, this one I don't love as much as I usually love it in other palettes. I don't know. So anyways, then we have Strawberry Moon. This palette has gorgeous multi-chromes in this middle row, specifically the shades Lunar Glow, Rose Moon's really nice too, and Sun-Kissed and Radiant are like out of this world amazing. But anyways, I just always feel like this is kind of redundant, but every time I edit videos, when I say that, I look at the palette in the camera and none of these shades look really similar. So I don't know if it's like a shiftiness thing happening. But yeah, I think I need to play with this one a little bit more, but I am going to give it to Strawberry Moon because obviously you got more versatility in this one versus this one. 26, we have the Viseart Koyish Étendue from the first half of the year and the BellaBeauteBar Best Mattes palette with Ellie Starr and Brittany Huffman from the second half of the year. Did I say Koyish Étendue? I meant the Petite Shimmer Koi. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. This one also has like little fish scales like the Koyish Étendue, but these are smaller. Anyways, all shimmer palette from Viseart. Very pretty, like some of these shades are duochromes. Koyish Étendue has quite a bit more duochrominess to it, and it's a little bit brighter. So of the two, I like that one better. This one I like, but it's to do all shimmer looks. I think Viseart has a really nice shimmer formula if you want to do all shimmer looks, or if you want like a softer, more subtle look that's still colorful. This one's nice for that. And then the Best Mattes palette is gigantic, and I really want to resort mine. I might do that soon. But anyways, this is what the inside of the palette looks like. It's kind of an all over the place color story, but I just cannot get over how much I love this neon yellow here. And I think you have like all the mattes you could possibly want, and they have a really nice formula. So I think I'm gonna give it to Best Mattes. I feel really bad because the second half of the year is like absolutely cleaning this up, but I feel like things are gonna get harder soon. Next up, we have in the 25th spot, we have the Petit Four Rosea Lotus palette from quad, whatever, from Viseart, and then the Laura Geller and Wheel of Fortune palette. So again, this packaging is just so adorable. Anyways, very basic, very neutral palette, but super flattering tones on me and really easy to use. And I do think this is the metallic formula from Viseart that has a bit more of a shine to it. And so I really like this one. As far as quads go, like this is a really nice one to be able to reach for. Here is Laura Geller and Wheel of Fortune. This palette absolutely shocked me. Like, one, I was surprised I even wanted it, but I bought it. And then two, after using it, I was like, wait a second. This is really, really nice. The shimmers are nice. The mattes are nice. It has a really nice formula. But, I don't know. Hold on. Both are basically going to give me neutral looks, right? But like one's going to just give me one kind of neutral look. And the other, I can get like a neutral look that has like the black or the greens to it. But I feel like I kind of like feel like I want to make this one win. Only because I felt like every time I've worn this one, which has been like 2 total times, but anyways, I felt really pretty in it. Not that I didn't feel pretty in this, but this one is harder than I thought it was going to be. I thought for sure that I was just going to want to pick the Wheel of Fortune one. But now I'm like thinking about it and I'm like, my favorite look in it is this like more like pinky rose-toned neutral look that I can get with this. And of the two, I like this one better. I think I'm going to go with this one. So now the first half of the year has two that it's won. Number 24 for the first half of the year is going to be the Melt Cosmetics Electrip palette, and it's going up against the Gloss Gods Lavender Skies Remastered palette. So this is Electrip. I like this palette. I think a lot of people talked about having issues with the matte formula, but liking the shimmer formula. I didn't feel like I had a ton of issues with the matte formula. My issue is mainly that this blue doesn't really have anything to blend out into. So if you're trying to use it, it doesn't blend out great on its own. I feel like the pink, red, and brown like all work together. But since that's really the only matte color story that works for me, every look I do has that. Like, I just feel like you lose the versatility of the palette by not really being able to pull in that blue that much, and every look I've done with it has kind of looked the same. So it's not my favorite color story, but I personally don't feel like I had like a ton of issues with the mattes. I don't know if maybe it's a little bit thinner than their normal matte formula, but I don't know. I just felt like it was more of a color story issue. But this is Lavender Skies. This palette is absolutely beautiful. It has one of my favorite shades in my whole collection, Dreamscape, down here. Beautiful, gorgeous. I thought the yellow and the red shimmer being included was weird until I did a look with both of them and realized that it truly created like a sunset effect on my lids. So I really like this one. And since I don't love the color story on this one and I love two of these shades so much, I'm going to give it to Lavender Skies. What a funny coincidence. So we have in the 23rd spot 2 Glamlight palettes. So for the first half of the year we have Glamlight and Scooby-Doo. For the second half of the year we have the Friday the 13th palette. And here is what the Scooby-Doo palette looks like. It's absolutely gigantic. I do really like this one, and I feel like they really nailed the Scooby-Doo like vibe with this color story. The shimmers are nice. You have a lot of different matte options, from like, you know, a lighter option to a deeper option, which is usually my complaint with Glamlight. I really like this one. Okay. And then we have Miss Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake. This one surprised me because I was beefing with the horror palettes so far that had come out, which were Ghostface and Chucky that I already talked about. Ghostface isn't in here because I tried it in the second half of the year but decluttered it, so it's just didn't make the cut for this video. But anyways, Friday the 13th. This palette's really nice. It surprised me how much I liked it, and I think the tones are really nice. I can blend out the shades on my skin tone with a translucent powder. So I do have to bring in something else, but like I always have a translucent powder on hand, so it's not that big of a deal. So I do really like this one too. I thought this would be harder, but I'm going to go with the Scooby-Doo palette. The IP might have played a factor in that, if we're being honest. Okay. Next up in 22, we have the Nomad Cosmetics Royal Europe palette versus the Wicked Widow Beauty Graveyard Smash palette. So, Royal Europe, which, by the way, any palette that I was gifted in PR, I will note in the description box down below. I think this is the first one that's come up, but if I've missed any, I'll make sure that it's noted down below. And then any palettes that I have codes with, you will have seen my code pop up on the screen. But anyways, this is Royal Europe. This palette is so pretty. I feel like beating a dead horse, like I'm beating a dead horse when every time I do these rankings, because I feel like I keep talking about the same thing. But anyways, the mattes don't quite go light enough for me. I feel like these two over here are pretty similar, and these two right here are pretty similar, and then this blue I want like just a little bit lighter so that it works for me. But I get why they went mid to like pretty much mid-tone, mid-jewel tone to go with the multi-chromes. I do understand that piece of it. I think the packaging is really amazing. It's got this laser cut packaging on it. But yeah, that's how I feel about the palette. And then Wicked Widow Beauty Graveyard Smash is this little guy here. Absolutely adorable. So this is technically an 8-pan, and I mentioned earlier that 8-pans are not my favorite, but there's something about this one that I just really like the ability to create different looks with this, and it all sort of works together in a way that I wasn't expecting it to. So this one just kind of consistently surprises me. Every time I reach for it, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna try and blend these mattes together, and this is where it won't work, and it still kind of works. And does not compute because it doesn't follow color theory at all. But I'm gonna give it to this little guy. All right, in the, did I say 20? This is 21 now, if I just said 21, whoops. In the 21st spot for the first half of the year, we have the Adept Cosmetics Aero Inspired palette. And then for the second half of the year, we have the Blend Bunny Sugar and Grunge palette. So, Aero Inspired has some gorgeous shimmers in it. I don't love the matte color story. I just feel like it's kind of hard to like figure out what to do with it. But the shimmers are really, really pretty in this palette, and I love the packaging. It's so luxe feeling. And for Sugar and Grunge, I've said this a few times, but like initially I didn't really get this color story. Like I didn't know what to do with it, and then as I've played with it over time, I've created some looks I've really liked with it, and I feel like I like this color story a lot more now. But which one do I want to win? I think I'm gonna give it to Sugar and Grunge, only because like I like these shimmers aren't shifty like the Adept ones are, so like I'd give the shimmers to the Adept one. Well, let's think about it. I'd give shimmers to the Adept one. I'd give mattes to this one. I'd give overall color story to this one. I'd give packaging to this one. But I just feel like I feel more inspired by this one mainly because of the color story. So I'm still gonna give it to this one, but that was pretty close. Okay, so now we're gonna move into the top 20 from both halves of the year. So number 20 from the first half of the year is the Lauren May Beauty and Odin's Eye Sea Talk palette, and it's going up against the Melt Cosmetics and Nightmare Before Christmas Christmastown palette. So let's look at the Lauren May one first. This is a really cute color story. It's another smaller palette. It's a 10 pan, but it has this gorgeous satin yellow electric kelp, which I love and want to always put in the inner corner. And the shimmers in this are really pretty. I do feel like I need a few more mattes to make this like a cohesive palette, so I tend to pair this with other things, but I do like this one a lot. And then the Melt Christmastown palette. I really like the shimmers in this palette, and I think this is a fun color story. These are like my favorite shimmers that Melt has ever done. It's hard because I haven't played with this one quite as much as this one, but really when I play with this one, it's to use that electric kelp shade. But that Sugar Plum Visions and Mistletoe, those two shimmers right there, they're so pretty. Oh, I don't know. Because this matte color story is a little funky too on this palette. I mean, it works, but it's just not, it's not like my absolute favorite color story. Oh, this is a 10 pan too. So we got 10 pan versus 10 pan. It's more even ground. I feel like you can do either like a neutral or like a colorful, like you have more versatility in this one. So I'm going to give it to this one, but I do really like this one. Oh, that was hard. I included these because we were so low on palettes for the first half of the year, but this is my Kristen Lee Cosmetics BYOP for the, like, ignore those 3 shades, but it's those 9 shades, right? Yeah, 9 shades right there. So that's my Kristen Lee Cosmetics, like, singles. Okay, so, there we go. And it's going up against, it's going up against Miss Lunar Beauty Siren Sunset. I really like this one. So this isn't even close. It's going to the Lunar Beauty one. I really like this palette. I love the neutral looks you can get with this and them being slightly more interesting. I do think the singles in here are beautiful though. Next we have the Viseart Petit Four Water Lotus going up against the BellaBeauteBar Recently De-Influenced palette. I keep wanting to say recently deceased because of Beetlejuice. But anyways, here is the Water Lotus little quad. It's so cute. It's so good. I love the tones in this. There's just something about the like actual colors that they picked for this one that just speak to me. And then Recently De-Influenced has some of the most gorgeous shimmers ever in it. Like Screenshot is like a dark purple, dark green duochrome. I don't know. Digital Zombie is one of my favorite kinds of duochromes where it's like looks like nothing and then bam, it's like blue. Ew. I think I have, oh man, this is hard because I want to give it to Water Lotus because I really, really like that one. This has some of my favorite shimmers in it, so I think it has to go to Recently De-Influenced. When Katie Marie has done these videos, hers have been a lot closer from first half to second half of the year. So, anyways, next up we have the Simply Posh Cosmetics Citrus Punch for the first half of the year versus Unearthly Cosmetics Fall Magic for the second half of the year. And Citrus Punch is a very fun, very punchy color story, perfect for summer. I really like how bright this goes. I think it's a really fun palette, perfect for the summertime. Fall Magic is a pink and green color story, has gorgeous shimmer formulas in it, and a really pretty, like, grungy pink and green color story to it as well. And I actually thought I was going to pick this one, but now that I'm looking at them... Oh, that's funny because they're both kind of pink and green, but this is like summertime pink and green. This is fall time pink and green. I think I like the brighter one better. So I think I'm going to give it to Miss Citrus Punch. And this one was gifted to me in PR. Next we have, for the first half of the year, we have Miss Too Faced Italian Spritz. I really like this one. It smells delicious. It smells so good. Okay, and I like the color story on it. I actually think it's a really good mainstream release. We have it going up against Nomad Cosmetics Ghost Town USA palette. This is actually what I have on my eyes today, if you were curious. I do really like this palette, but I'll be honest, these shimmers crease on me. I hadn't used the silver shimmers yet until today, but like we've got some pretty bad creasing happening after just a few hours. So I don't have that issue with the Italian Spritz palette, and I like the color stories equally on both. They're very different, right? Like this is like a darker, more muted, more, I don't want to say grungy because it's not quite grungy, but more like muted color story. And this is very bright, very summer, what have you. But I like the ability to mix like really bright, warm tones with like this like blue, bright blue as well. And then this purple shade Mamma Mia is really... Or no, that's not my Mamma Mia. That's Spritz and Glitz right there. I think I messed that up in my video too when I filmed it. But anyways, I'm going to give it to this one. Okay, and next up we have Simply Posh Cosmetics Berry Icy going up against Doodles by the Bunny and Gourmand Girls Silent Night. Berry Icy is a very pretty color story. You have the cool tones with the warm tones. I did like the shimmers in this palette. I'm not typically a blue fan, but I really liked the blue color story in this palette. I thought it was really nice. I thought it was a good one. I enjoyed playing with it. And for Silent Night, this one is newer to my collection, and I just love it. I love it so much. It's so pretty. I will be honest, I have only used it on the eyes one time so far, but I'm obsessed with it, and I've swatched it a couple of times. I've done like swatch comparisons with it and then like a full like swatch post on my Instagram. But I'm gonna give it to this one because I absolutely love and adore this palette. Next up, we have Blend Bunny Cosmetics Lure palette and the Unearthly Cosmetics Sorceress Smoke. So for Lure, this is what the inside of the color story looks like. This shade Pearl is this really pretty multi-chrome. The blue mattes are not my favorite from the brand. I feel like I had to work a little bit to blend those, but otherwise I think this is a really fun, really pretty color story and like so right up my alley with those colors. Yeah, it's a really good one. Unearthly Cosmetics Sorceress Smoke, definitely more neutral, but gorgeous shimmers in this one and a really pretty neutral color story. Definitely a palette that you could do like a more intense like glam smoky look with, or a super quick easy like two shadow done look with like those two peachy shades or like those two. So I think it's really nice. It goes from like a lighter matte shade all the way to a deeper matte, so you've got some versatility to it. But I think I have to give it to Lure. I feel like this one, like you'll get more, like you could do a lot of different colorful looks, whereas I feel like you only have, I mean, it has more shades. It has double the shades, I think. 24 versus what, 14? No, 12. So literally double the shades. But anyways, I'm gonna give it to Lure. Next up, we have the Unearthly Cosmetics Surrender palette. This is from the Valentine's Day mystery box that they did. And then we have the Adept Cosmetics Sumerian Sunset palette. So for Surrender, this is what the inside of the palette looks like. It's a very pretty pink neutral color story with like the red as well and some purple. But anyways, it's a very pretty palette. especially for Valentine's Day. I think it's a really cute one. I like this color story a lot, like the mattes, like the shimmers, all the things. Sumerian Sunset is based off of a drink from Star Trek, and I feel like I always have to mention that I am a Star Trek fan because I just feel like that plays in heavily to how much I like this palette. These shimmer shades are some of my favorite from Adept, like Risa, Moog, or is it Risa? I think it's Risa, right? Anyways, whatever. Gorgeous. Love it. There's a couple of shimmers in here that crease pretty bad on me, but I did really like this matte color story. I'm gonna give it to this one because out of the two, I do like this one better. Next, we have Lunar Beauty and Laura Lee Los Angeles, the Fool Fantasy palette, going up against Simply Posh Cosmetics Aurora Lights palette. Here is the Fool Fantasy palette. It is such a good neutral palette. I think I had somebody one time say that, like, asked me if I thought it was like close to the is it called the Nearly Natural or Nearly Neutral or whatever palette from Glam and And I was like, no, I don't think so. And then one of my friends who had both palettes put them up next to each other, and I was like, oh no, they are really similar. So anyways, I don't have that Glam and palette, but I really, really like this color story. Now, having seen how similar they are, I can see why everybody liked that Glam and color story. It's a really good neutral color story. Like, super solid. You have some fun pops in there, but like mostly a neutral palette. I think it's really gorgeous. This is the Aurora Lights palette from Simply Posh. Definitely very bright, but I really liked the looks I got out of it, and the shimmer duochromes in the center row are super, super pretty. So I feel like I should go with this one, but like realistically, I think I would reach for Fool Fantasy more. Also, why do I kind of want to combine these two? Do like a half neutral, half colorful look. I really like the Aurora Lights one. Okay, I'm gonna give it to the Fool Fantasy one because you do have the ability to do a green look. Now, is it a muted green look? Yes, but you do have the ability to do a green look or work in like a pinky blue, like you have this like blue purple duochrome, so you could like kind of have a colorful look, whereas this one, like there's no neutral look really coming out of this one. So since this wins out on versatility, I'm gonna give it to this one, but I really like both of these palettes, so that was really hard. In the number 11 spot, we have the Lethal Cosmetics Wildflower palette going up against Adept Cosmetics Element 115. So for the Wildflower palette, this is what the inside looks like. Is this such a fun and bright color story? And I really like I feel like they're duochromes or they're just shimmers with like different kinds of reflex to them. It's really pretty. And this leans pretty purple, which I love purple eyeshadow. And then Adept Element 115. Ooh, this is fun too though. And I love purple, and this is mostly purple also. And I think these stripe shades are actually kind of a cool way to do something different for me because I don't normally do stuff like that. These might also work really nicely together. Okay, like look at that. It's a fun color story. Goodness. Okay, I'm gonna give it to Wildflower solely based on the fact that I've used this one more, and the Element 115 is newer to my collection, so I don't know if like a recency bias is playing into it, and if over time, like, am I realistically going to keep using it and still enjoy those stripe shades? I don't know. But anyways, I do like this one, and I am enjoying it so far, and it has an alien on it. That was the other part. That was hard. Okay. Now we're going to finish this out with the top 10, but honestly, it's not even close. The second half of the year is like really, really killing it, so whatever. Number 10, we have the Nomad Cosmetics Okavango Safari palette versus Blend Bunny Cosmetics Machina palette. And this is precariously balanced. Okay, this is what Okavango looks like. Green, brown, like green and like neutrally brown color story. These are like almost cool tone browns. They look like this rumbling elephant shade like looks like, I don't know, it looks kind of like a gray green in the pan, but really on the eye it's like a gray. But anyway, so you have like a warm tone row, a cool tone row, and greens in the middle. And I really like this color story. A lot of people got hard pan on this. I didn't. Every time I say that, I test it and swatch it, and I just did that recently, and I know I don't have hard pan in it, so I'm not going to keep touching it and force hard pan on myself. But anyways, I I really did like this one. I thought I came up with like really pretty looks with it, and I really liked the overall color story. Next up, we have Machina, which is supposed to be kind of like represent like this half is supposed to be machine, this half is supposed to be human, and then it's like a glitch in like the Matrix type of thing happening. So that's why the color story is like laid out. And when you first look at it, you're sort of like, what am I supposed to do with that? But anyways, as you play with it, everything works so well together. It's so nice. I'm gonna have to give it to this one only because I just felt like this really boosted my creativity at the time. So yeah, so it's gonna go with this one. Next up, we have Ensley Rain Flower Moon Palette. This is what the palette looks like. Absolutely gorgeous. There's a few shades that like are more similar than like ideally I would like them to be, but they have really gorgeous shimmers and mattes in here. I think this palette is so beautiful. I really enjoy this one. Going up against Doodles by the Bunny and Gourmand Girls Haunted palette. Kind of a similar issue on this one. I feel like there's a couple of mattes in here that are a little too similar. I don't feel like there's any similar shimmers, but yeah, so there's like a couple of tweaks I'd make to this one. But of the two, I'm going to give it to the Flower Moon palette because I absolutely love this one. Next up, we have Lunar Beauty Nude Prism. This actually launched in 2022, but I didn't try it till last year. And then the BellaBeauteBar Basic Witch palette. Here's Nude Prism. This consistently makes a holy grail favorite for me. So I know how I'm going to pick on this one, so I just want to tee this up for a second. So this consistently makes like holy grail favorite for me because I think it's a gorgeous palette. It's like the perfect like peachy neutral palette. It's just so freaking pretty. I love the shimmers. I love the mattes. It's absolutely gorgeous. Basic Witch by BellaBeauteBar does not tend to make my holy grail favorites in the recent rankings I've done, but I feel like it's close and it's just a matter of me playing with this more. I really like this palette, and I think because I have the ability to do something that leans a little neutral with these two over here, but also get all this color, I'm gonna give it to this one. But I like both, and technically like what I count as a holy grail favorite, like if I don't know, if I lost both of these, I think I might replace both of these. That's usually what I think of like for a holy grail favorite. Like would I actually repurchase a palette if it like broke or got stolen or lost? Because most of the time the answer is no. I have so many, like I could part ways with it, but I think I'd actually replace both of these. Maybe this is moving into holy grail territory the more I stare at it. I don't know. Anyways, Basic Witch one. Next up, we have my Make Your Own Magic bundle from BellaBeauteBar, and it is 9 shades. I want to say it's these 9, I think. It's hard because there's other 2 BellaBeauteBar shimmers in here, so they look similar. But anyways, so this is like a single palette again. It has really gorgeous holochromes. Some of the like shimmers are hand pressed and then like really textured. They like flake a lot, but they're very pretty. Next we have for the second half of the year, we have the Isom Cosmetics, the Artistry palette. This is the #1 Balance palette. And I think this palette is very pretty. It's a really great neutral color story. I am going to give it to my Make Your Own Magic bundle only because these shades are like out of this world amazing. So, and basically for me, as much as I love all mattes and I like to do all matte looks, you put an all special shimmer palette versus an all matte palette, the all special shimmer palette's gonna win. If you put an all special shimmer palette versus a palette that has both special shimmers and mattes, it's a toss up. Anyways, we have next for the first half of the year, we have the Odin's Eye and Betty Jean Planet Spirit palette. I don't know why I'm already showing you the inside. I'll show you what it's going up against. But this has my favorite bright, punchy neutrals, like, I think, in my whole collection. Like, these just look like a highlighter on the eye. It's so gorgeous. It's going up against the Isom Cosmetics Intensity eyeshadow palette, which is an all-neutral shimmer palette. And as much as I love this palette and think this formula is great, I'm going to go with the Odin's Eye palette, just because I really like feeling like I have the ability to put a highlighter directly on my eyelid. Okay, we're moving on to top 5. So, in the 5th spot for the first half of the year, we have the BellaBeauteBar Pastel Garden palette. I was gifted this one in PR, and it's going up against the Cozy Cabin holiday edition. This is like a limited edition palette that they did for the holidays. Anyways, I was also gifted this one in PR. So here's what the Pastel Garden palette looks like. It's a giant pastel palette, but this was my most used palette of 2023. I reached for this one the most because whenever I needed a lighter shade to blend something out, I'm like, oh, let me just pull in my pastel palette. It has every pastel shade I could ever need. This is Cozy Cabin, and I've said this a few times, but I've reached for this neutral row a lot, and I just have this palette sitting pretty much on my vanity because I keep using it. Have I done a ton of, I haven't even used every shade in it. Like, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I haven't used every shade in it because I continue to use the same row or column or whatever. So I need to spend more time in the cool tone. I think I did use this row for my first look, but I think I could spend more time right here. But anyways, it's really pretty. So that's hard. That's a hard one because overall, like as a standalone palette, I think I'd have to give it to Cozy Cabin, but I'm having a hard time doing it when I've used the Pastel Garden palette more. But I think I'm going to do it. Because this one for me, while as much as I love it, and this is like my most used palette, I do need to, I don't do a ton of all pastel looks, so I need to pair this with something else. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to give it to Cozy Cabin. Another funny coincidence. Next up, we have in the number 4 spot, Natasha Denona versus Natasha Denona. So for the first half of the year, we have Yucca. For the second half of the year, we have I Need a Nude. So here's Yucca. Gorgeous neutral green color story. Has amazing shimmers in it. Love, amazing. Love the tones of this. I Need a Nude. This is really pretty. I actually used this one the other day. And the shimmers in this one are really pretty too. It's more of like a cool toned pink palette, like neutral palette, if that makes sense. I'm gonna have to give it to Yucca because I do feel like I like the Yucca color story the most out of the two of them. But this is a really good one. Okay, next we have the Nomad Cosmetics Verona Amore Immorte palette versus the Melt Cosmetics and Bailey Sarian Fatally Yours palette. So here is the inside of the Verona palette, and I absolutely adore this color story. I think it's so pretty. It's really pretty. I love that you have the like love side. You guys can't see it. I love that you have like the love side versus the death side. I do like to spend more time on the death side just because I'm not a big red eyeshadow girly, but I like the ability to kind of go back and forth between the two. And I love the concept behind the packaging. I just feel like this is a great like overall experience. And then for the Melt and Bailey Sarian palette, this is like every grungy lover's dream. This is the definition of a grungy all matte palette. I think it's amazing. It's mostly like mid-tone to deep shades, but I feel like there's at least a couple of lighter shades in here, so you can use this as like a standalone palette for like an all matte look. I think I'm gonna actually give it to the Nomad palette. I'm surprising myself with that because I really love this palette, but I'm gonna give it to the Nomad palette because this consistently stayed one of my favorites throughout last year, and this one's sort of newer and there's no shimmers in this, whereas like, you know, it's more complete. So number 2, we have the BellaBeauteBar Smokey Glam palette going up against the Danessa Myricks Groundworks palette. So Smokey Glam I adore. It is a similar formula to their Pastel Garden one, but it's mainly like neutral or muted colorful shades. Like you have like muted greens, muted purples, and then neutrals pretty much in here. And the shimmers in this are stunning. I love every look that I did with this palette. It is absolutely gorgeous. The Defining Neutrals palette, the Groundwork Defining Neutrals palette, features a matte formula and a cream to powder formula. I should say a powder matte formula and a cream to powder matte formula of each shade, which I think is cool. I reach for this one a lot, mainly for like today I used it for my brows, and then I use it a lot if I need just like something for my face that I don't want to reach into something else, and this one's like out and available. I tend to use it a lot to do my brows when I'm wearing a wig. It's very helpful for that. But I did like all of the all neutral looks I did with this, but I'm gonna give it to Smokey Glam just because of the two. I really, really, really love this one. And I like this one a lot, but like And I use this one probably a little bit more just on a day-to-day basis, but I really love this one. So, okay, last up, my number one from the first half of the year versus number one versus the second half. So number one in the first half of the year is the Ensley Rain and Brittany Huffman Midwinter Dream palette. And then for the second half of the year, it's the Isamaya Beauty Industrial 2.0. So talking about Midwinter Dream, I really love the shimmers in this palette, and I think this is a really fun matte color story as well. I was absolutely blown away by the quality of this palette. This is my first time trying Ensley Rain, and it made me obsessed. Like, joined as an affiliate, got other palettes. Like, this just like blew my socks off. So I really, really like that palette. And then the Isamaya palette, I actually held off on, but my friend Daria really hard sold me on this one, and so I ended up getting it. And again, it also blew my socks off. So I guess as far as rankings go, if you surprise me, it makes a big difference in where you get ranked. This palette is just... It's an all shimmer palette, so you do have to combine it with another palette in my opinion, for me, mostly you have to combine it with another palette. You can use this shade down here. It's more of like a satiny finish. It's not quite a satin. That's not the right word. I don't know how to describe the finish, but you're able to use it as a shimmer or smoke it out, blend it into your crease, or use it as a liner. I've done that where I've just used that as a liner and then put, I want to say it was this shade, just tapped over the lid, and that was it. And that looks like a completed look. So it can be a standalone palette. For me and how I like to do my makeup, I tend to pair it with some mattes or with at least a bronzer in the crease. But anyways, this palette, I think you have so many different formulas and textures in it. You can really layer, make things look different. There's a lot of ways to, like, I don't know, you just feel like a scientist almost playing with this one. And it's really, really fun. Like, you're experimenting with different color stories and stuff. So I really like that one. But it does not have mattes. So I think I'm going to give it to Midwinter Dream. And yeah, that's hard. Ooh, that hurts. But anyways, yeah, you can't go wrong. Okay, so let me tally up how many we had win for the first half and the second half of the year and see how not close it was. Okay, so it was actually closer than I thought it was going to be. Not that close, but it was closer than I thought. So for the first half of the year, we had 16 palettes win their battles. For the second half of the year, we had 26 palettes win their battles. But if we take into the consideration that 11 of those palettes didn't actually go up against any palettes because they were decluttered, it was really a 16-15 split. So I don't know. Maybe if I had not decluttered those palettes, we could have actually like done everything. Maybe it would have been more similar. I also, as I was going, was thinking about how Katie, because she does it based on how she ranked at the time that she did her first half of the year ranking, like some of those palettes would have ranked differently, because like initially I really liked them and put them up way high, and then as time went on they sort of fell down the list, and there was like some that jumped up, if that makes sense. Like, so I almost feel like that could benefit the first half of the year a little bit more. But yeah, anyways, this was fun. Let me know if you liked this. I thought it was a good time, just to, you know, put palettes, pit them against each other and see who won. But yeah, I had some surprising picks for myself in there, because there's some palettes that I'm like, wait, no, I like that palette more, but I'm gonna pick it for this reason. So yeah, anyways, let me know what you think of this kind of video down below. I will probably plan to do this again for this year, just because it was a good time. But anyways, that's it from me, and I will see you next time. Bye.